It's the moment of truth for Brexit trade talks, but Prime Minister Boris Johnson says things are looking difficult. Both sides are waiting to see who blinks first on the issue of EU access to British fishing waters. The European Parliament has set a Sunday deadline for talks to end and has passed contingency measures meant to ease the pain of a no-deal Brexit. Jack Parrock reports.
As post-Brexit trade negotiations head into what the EU side is calling the final hours, the European Union continues to prepare for a no-deal scenario. The European Parliament has approved contingency measures to prevent disruption in road and air transport and also to extend the existing fisheries authorisations. According to Brussels and London, there has been substantial progress on many issues, but still significant differences remain.
It's the moment of truth. We have very little time remaining. Just a few hours to work through these negotiations if you want this agreement to enter into force on January 1st.
The UK's we've done a lot, I think, to try and help, and we hope that our EU friends will see sense and come to the table with something themselves, because that's really where we are.
Britain wants to slash the allowance of fish European boats can take out of its waters by well over a half, far too much for the EU. And London is committed to renegotiating the quotas annually. The EU wants a longer-term agreement.
Without this access, of course, this would mean the end of fishery communities because they just can't do their job anymore. And therefore, it is very important that we manage to get a long-term agreement where we have as well a security in planning for our fishermen, because there is a lot of investment.
The European Parliament has issued a new ultimatum to negotiators to strike a deal by Sunday so that they can ratify it before the end of the year. They expect the document to run to 700 pages or more.
We are ready to be flexible as possible, but we need, of course, time to scrutiny.
Both sides say they're working to mitigate the impact of a no deal. Without an agreement, though, trade disruption is likely to be immense. Jack Parrock, Euronews, Brussels.
And you've been just listening to Jack Parrock there, and he is standing by in Brussels for us, and Tig Enright is in London. Jack, we heard some stark warnings there from Michele Barnier over no-deal preparations. What's the latest on these negotiations?
Well, we know that Michele Barnier himself has been going to, especially the coastal representatives here in Brussels, also representatives from the permanent representations of the EU's countries here in Brussels, to see what margins he has in the negotiations, specifically on fisheries, this idea of how much room he can change the quotas. But what, from the numbers we understand, Isabel, the UK and the EU side are still miles apart, where the UK is saying they want to reduce European capacities to fish in British waters by somewhere between 60 to 80%, and the margins that Michele Barnier is being told he can negotiate within are something like 18 to 25%. So this is a chasm between the two sides right at this final hour as they're trying to make this deal come to pass, to make sure that there is a no deal, that they prevent a no-deal situation come the 1st of January.
And Tig, a chasm maybe, and very little wiggle room, it seems.
Yeah, a pretty big gap to be bridged. Although I must say, people talking about final hours and late stages, I would put money on these talks going past Sunday, no matter what the European Parliament says. I hope I'm wrong on that front. But, you know, at the end of the day, if compromise is going to be found in a way that they can sell it to purists back home, there is a long list of ways in which you can dress it up with different language in which to make it look like a victory. That's how the Northern Irish backstop ultimately became the Northern Ireland Protocol, or kicking the can down the road. When you hear talk about review clauses and implementation periods, that's negotiating tone for putting off, negotiating code for putting off big decisions until later, when the spotlight has faded and compromise doesn't feel so painful.
OK, so it could still go on, Tig. We're going back to what Jack was saying in his package. He was talking about trade disruption. In the case of a no deal, well, the UK is already seeing that kind of disruption already.
Remember, deal or no deal, there will be disruption because we are re-erecting a border that hasn't been there for decades, reintroducing border controls that haven't been there for the same period of time, making traders start to complete paperwork that most of them haven't done in their working lives. And yes, we are already seeing it. Long queues of trucks approaching the port of Dover, which is the main crossing between here and the continent. Also long queues at Holyhead in North Wales, the main crossing point between Britain and Ireland. Even though nothing has changed yet, the reason for that is that people are trying to get stuff across before January the 1st and also stockpiling to prepare for any potential shortages which you could have in the new year. It is a taste of what's to come. But if there is no deal, then you've got the added complication of tariffs and all the paperwork that will require too. And the policing of regulations is going to happen anyway. Tariffs will come on top of that. More paperwork and more potential for even greater delays.
It's extremely complex. And Jack, as these talks go down to the wire, the ultimate decision would lay with the European Parliament on this deal. But it seems that member states might be wanting to have the last word.
Yeah, that's excuse me. Yeah, that's right, Isabel. For what it's worth, I think I agree with what Tig was saying, that no matter what the European Parliament has said about its need to vote on this deal, that the two sides will just continue talking. Now, what we are understanding and what the sort of buzz this afternoon has been about this deal is that the European Council is likely to be preparing itself to not to override the European Parliament's right to rubber stamp and to scrutinise the deal, but to force through a provisional acceptance of the deal so that it can come into force even if the European Parliament doesn't have the time to do it. Everything is being done, Isabel, to prevent that cliff edge happening on the last day of this year.
Complex machinations on both sides of the channel. Many thanks, Jack and Tig.